Today, we're diving into the hidden laws that govern one of the most fundamental particles in the universe, the electron. These are the unseen rules that dictate, well, pretty much everything. I mean, have you ever stopped to wonder what actually makes gold shiny? Or why iron rusts? Or how carbon is able to form the backbone of all life as we know it? What's the master code that tells every single element how to act? Well, the answer is way smaller than you might think. It's not really about the nucleus or the protons. It's all about the electrons. And more specifically, it's about the very strict, very weird rules they have to follow. You can think of it like a secret code, written in how they're all arranged. And in this explainer, we're gonna crack that code. We are going to uncover these rules, see exactly how they work, and then reveal just how profound and honestly sometimes downright bizarre their consequences can be. So to get started, let's think about an electron as if it has a home address, a specific spot where it lives. To find any electron in an atom, you need to know exactly where to look. In chemistry, this address is what we call its electron configuration. It's the exact map of how electrons are arranged in these special regions of space called orbitals. So forget the idea of a random cloud of electrons. This is a highly structured, super organized system. And these orbitals are kind of like different neighborhoods. The s orbital, it's a simple sphere, like a studio apartment that can only hold 2 electrons. Then you've got the p orbital, which is like a 3-bedroom house, holding up to 6. As you move up to the d and f orbitals, the shapes get way more complex, and they can hold a lot more electron tenants. Okay, but how do electrons decide which orbital to move into? Well, they can't just go wherever they want. There are 3 unbreakable rules they have to follow, kind of like a strict landlord for the entire atom. And here they are, the landlord's rules. First up, the Aufbau principle. This one's easy. Electrons are lazy. They always fill the easiest, lowest energy spots first. Then you've got the Pauli Exclusion Principle. Only 2 electrons can share any single orbital, and if they do, they have to have opposite spins. Think of them like roommates who have to sleep head to toe. And finally, there's Hund's rule. If there are multiple empty rooms at the same energy level, every electron gets its own room before anyone has to double up. Everybody likes their space, right? Now, these rules don't just exist on their own. They all work together. Let's actually put them to the test and build a nitrogen atom from scratch. It's got 7 electrons we need to find homes for. All right, let's do this. The first 2 electrons go into the lowest energy spot, the 1s orbital. That's Aufbau and Pauli at work. The next 2 fill up the 2s orbital. Easy enough. Now we've got 3 electrons left and 3 empty 2p orbitals that are all at the same energy level. And here's where Hund's rule is so important. Instead of pairing up, each electron takes its own separate 2p orbital. And that right there leaves nitrogen with 3 unpaired electrons, which, as you'll see, is absolutely crucial. So why do we care so much about those unpaired electrons? Because those are the tools that atoms use to connect with each other. This is how we go from talking about a single atom to building the molecules that make up our entire world. See, when orbitals from 2 different atoms overlap, they form bonds. The strongest kind is called a sigma bond. It's a direct, head-on overlap, a real firm handshake. But you can also have a weaker pi bond, which forms from a sideways overlap, kind of like holding hands. Now, these bonding rules explain a ton, but sometimes they lead us to a real scientific mystery. Let's talk about the oxygen molecule O2. Our simplest models, the ones we use all the time, predict that in an oxygen molecule, every single electron should be neatly paired up. This would make it diamagnetic, which is just a fancy way of saying it shouldn't react to a magnet at all. So, what's the deal with this? When you pour liquid oxygen between the poles of a powerful magnet, it sticks. It gets pulled right in. It is clearly magnetic. This real-world experiment totally contradicts our simple theory. So what on earth is going on? Well, the answer comes from a more advanced model, something called molecular orbital theory. And it shows that when 2 oxygen atoms get together, their electrons actually rearrange in a way that leaves 2 of them unpaired. And having unpaired electrons makes it paramagnetic. That's why it sticks to the magnet. It's a perfect example of how those 3 simple rules we started with are always at play, but they can lead to consequences that are way more complex than you'd first expect. And these surprising consequences aren't just one-offs. These same electron rules create huge, sweeping trends that you can see across the entire periodic table. Case in point, the lanthanide contraction. Take a look at that long row of 14 elements at the bottom of the periodic table. As you move from left to right, you're adding one proton and one electron at each step. So common sense would tell you the atoms should be getting bigger, right? More stuff equals bigger, but they don't. In fact, they get smaller. So why in the world does this happen? It's all about where those new electrons are going. They're being added to those big, complicated f orbitals. And because of their weird, spread-out shapes, they do a terrible job of shielding the outer electrons from the pull of the nucleus. It's like trying to hide behind a chain-link fence. So as the nucleus gets more and more positive, its pull gets stronger, and it just reels that whole electron cloud in, squeezing the atom tighter and tighter. And this is no small thing. You can see it right here in the data. The radius just drops and drops and drops. It's a steady, predictable shrinkage, all because of the goofy shape of that f orbital. And here is the wildest ripple effect of all. Look at zirconium and hafnium. Hafnium is right underneath zirconium on the periodic table. It has an entire extra shell of electrons. It should be much, much bigger. But because that whole lanthanide contraction happens right before you get to hafnium, it gets squeezed down so much that it ends up being almost the exact same size as zirconium. They become chemical twins, and they are incredibly difficult to tell apart, all because of that one little shielding effect. So let's bring this all home. What's the big takeaway here? We started with a really simple idea, an electron's address. We saw how the rules for that address led to a crazy puzzle with oxygen's magnetism. And then we saw how those exact same rules have a ripple effect that literally changes the size of atoms across the whole periodic table. And the whole thing, all of it, boils down to just three. Three simple rules: Aufbau, Pauli, and Hund, that form the foundation for all of the beautiful, predictable, and sometimes just plain weird behavior we see in chemistry. And that kind of leaves you with one last question, doesn't it? If a code this simple can generate the entire world of matter as we know it, from the air we're breathing to the phones in our hands, it really makes you wonder, what other simple invisible codes are out there, quietly shaping the reality we see every single day?